before I truly became a mom, there was a season in my life where I just didn't know what I was doing. People don't talk about just how much favor. There is so much favor that comes upon your life when you have children. The question that I usually ask, or that I asked at the very beginning stage of the podcast to my guests was, can women have it all? And I have come to the point right now where I'm like, today's verse of the day is Psalm 62, verse 1 to 2. My soul finds rest in God alone. My salvation comes from Him. He alone is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will never be shaken. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Busy Moms Get It Done podcast. I am your host, Esther Shittu. Today is just me. I am the one. I am the guest. I am the host. I am doing it all. Today, just like it says, everybody knows that the Busy Moms Get It Done. So welcome. If this is your first time seeing my face, my name is Esther Shittu. I am the host of the Busy Moms Get It Done podcast. And I have spent literally from June up until now, December, for the past 6 months, I have been discussing and talking to so many women, so many mothers who are doing one thing or another, doing their own business, being a counselor, helping moms get it done. And I am proud of myself because 6 months ago, I started this podcast, and 6 months later, it is still not where I want it to be, but it is more than where it was. And so to that, we just say, to God be the glory, great things He has done. So, no, sorry. Anywho, I want to take this podcast, this one, to fully come back on. When I started this podcast 6 months ago, I started with kind of a get to know me. Hello, my name is Esther. 6 months later, I am kind of ending this few episodes that I did for the past 6 months with just like going through what is it I have learned. So to those who don't know me, again, I am a journalist. I work as a journalist. That's my 9 to 5. I have 3 beautiful girls, 3, not 6, 3 beautiful girls. And who I am absolutely love it. I am a Christian. I love Jesus Christ is King, all of that. So this podcast journey has been just that, a journey. I started the podcast because I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean that I can be a mom and succeed? You know, I felt like I was feeling a little bit of a lot of tension. I wanted to be a certain kind of mom. I still want to be a certain kind of mom. And I also need to make money because if you don't work, you don't eat. And so I started it wanting to do something that was outside of my 9 to 5 because I didn't want to rely solely on your 9 to 5. And here I am months later, completely like loved all the guests that came through, all the advice that people came to give about, what it means to be a busy mom that get it done, and what it means to like try to parent your kids in today's environment. So today I am going to be the guest, like I mentioned at the very beginning, and I am going to be answering some questions, which I did answer this at the very beginning of the podcast, but I wanted to answer it again. And by the beginning of the podcast, I mean I answered it at the beginning when I first started in the very beginning in June. So what was my expectation of motherhood and what is my reality? So I started my motherhood journey really, really excited to be a mom. I became a mom at 25, and I have always wanted to be a mom. Like I just knew that I was gonna be that mom. I just knew like it was gonna be fun. And some moments are fun and some moments are not. And I forgot I think that I was very blessed, and I am still very blessed in that my first child, I was like, this is easy. What are you talking about? Like you put them on the boob, they cry. Put them on the boob for every little thing. I was bored during maternity leave. I was like, what is going on? I was so bored doing my maternity leave. I, I was like, I need more children because I am bored. Like, literally, my child sleeps, eat, and she eats, she sleeps, she moves. And I spent my maternity leave of my first child literally like, you know, let's just let's just eat. Like, let's just watch TV. Let's just do things. So I enjoyed that first maternity leave. I didn't have any problems. And then obviously I forgot that, things escalate and things capitalize on each other. So my second time around, it was a little bit harder. And it was harder because I was now juggling a toddler and a baby. And I love that for me because I really wanted my child to have a second, I wanted her to have a sibling. I didn't want her to be the only one, but I forgot the fact that or I didn't research really enough what it's like having children so close to close together. But right now, honestly, I love the fact that my children are close together. They are best of friends. And then having two and the third on the way was a little bit of hard for me. And it is hard because as they grow older, they grow into their own personalities. And as someone who didn't have siblings, that grew up with her, it's hard seeing that sibling dynamic because I'm like, why are you fighting? Like, literally, why are we fighting? Like, we don't need to cry about everything. But my kids are the greatest joy that God can ever give unto me. They are a joy. So my expectation was I knew that I was gonna love motherhood, and I love motherhood. My reality was I forgot to calculate what exactly goes into motherhood, the patience you need in motherhood, the fact that kids are going to want to do their own things. What kind of mother did I want to be? I didn't really, really think about that. I think I just entered it being like, I'm going to be a mother and I'm just going to love it. And honestly, I'm a mother and I love it. And I also think sometimes that I'm like, so that is that. The other question that I usually ask my guests is, how has motherhood made you better in your career, and how has your career made you better as a mom? So if y'all don't know, I'm Nigerian, so we are go-getters here. And so I've always been a go-getter, but I would say that before I truly became a mom, there was a season in my life where I just didn't know what I was doing in my life. I didn't really I knew I was going with the flow. I was in a job and I was doing as best that I could in that job, but I was what is life? What is purpose? And I've always been the type of person that I truly do not think that we are just put in this life to enjoy life. Now, I pray for an abundant life and I am going to have it in Jesus' name. But at that point before I had children, I was very much like, I'm just going to work and I'm coming home. And that was it. And maybe because was because I was not very outgoing before I had children. I like to be at home. Even now, I still like to be home. But when I had when I had the children, I think that was God's way of pushing me out into the world a little bit more. And it forced me to be out. It forced me to trust God a little bit more. I feel like people don't talk about just how much favor there is so much favor that comes upon your life when you have children. I mean, we hear about so much of kids are hard. They are. Kids are, kids are they're crazy. They are. Kids make your life harder. They do. But there is so much favor. There is so much favor that comes into your life the moment you have a child. I don't care what the circumstance is that surrounds that. You just have so much favor. And I feel like the moment I had my first child, so much favor opened up, so much doors opened up, so many things in my life changed. And I mean, I know that there are people who are like, I never had the maternal instinct in my life, but once I had them in my life changed and I had this and that, I've always had that maternal instinct. I've always known I wanted to be a mom. But when I became a mother, my purpose kind of realized. And I think that it became less about me, and it became more about, like, you know, just fulfilling whatever God had for me. I would say that I became bolder. Um, like I was like, I remember that, when my first child was 6 months old, I had a situation where I had to leave my job, and at a point I was just like, you know what? Come what may. Come what may. As long as I have Jesus, I will be fine. And I got to that point in that job, though, that I was like, whatever. As long as I have Jesus, I'll be fine. And I don't know if it's because of I've always been a person of faith for sure. And I've always been like bold in my faith. But I think that I just trust God a little bit more and have to lean on God a little bit more. So my purpose kind of shifted. The things that I thought I wanted, I always knew that I wanted to be a present mom. Like, I wanted to, be there every single day for every single journey. Now, am I the best at being there for every single no, but I've always just loved motherhood, and I romanticize motherhood, and I think a lot of people don't, and I think that's perhaps important that you know yourself, obviously, but also to romanticize, like, like taking their first step. Motherhood makes me want to slow down sometimes. It makes me it makes me realize that truthfully there are times and seasons in life, and the times and seasons, especially in motherhood, there are times and seasons where you literally just have to be present, and then there are times and seasons where you're able to run. And I would say that motherhood has allowed me to see that my time and my seasons are coming. Time and circumstances, everything is going to work together for good. I don't know if I really answered that question, but I'm working as hard in my career, but I'm also through my career realizing that I need to be there for my kids. Like, they are priority. Um and sometimes that gets a little bit mixed up. Now, one of the questions that I have learned in having this podcast and trying to grow a podcast is so hard, especially when I have 3 kids and I have a job, and trying to grow a podcast is hard. And the question that I usually ask, or that I asked at the very beginning stage of the podcast to my guests, was, can women have it all? Yes, not at the same time. And I'm reorienting myself and trying to become the kind of woman that I want to be. And the kind of woman that I want to be is someone who is present in every area of her life, present for my kids, and also doing things well and doing things to the way that will work for me, that will work for my family. All that to say is that there are some things that are going to be changing with the Busy Moms Get It Done podcast. No, I'm not going to wait. No, I'm not quitting podcasting. I'm very excited to reimagine and let the creativity flow again. I feel like I have been a little bit in a creative rut, and I want to get more guests, and I want to have more people. And I also believe that there is an importance in rest. A lot of the podcast guests that I had, they spoke about resting. They spoke about taking care of yourself. They spoke about, letting your mind rest, loving on yourself. And I think that for the past month, I've just been going, going, going. I've been releasing episodes as much as I can. And but I also know that in the season of life that I am, season of life, seasons and seasons, I need to take a rest and I need to take a break. And so with that said, I am taking the rest of December off and also most of January. The Busy Mom Get It Done podcast will be back in February 2026. I pray that it will be back as more of a renewed podcast where it is more focused on where God wants me to go and how He wants me to lead. Now, it is possible that I might be back in January, but I think for now, my goal is to be back. Not my goal, but the latest I plan on taking is all the rest of December and the rest of January. January is literally just for me to get more guests, speak to more people, and December is for me to focus on getting back into it and getting back into it in whatever way that God wants me to get back into it. I am so grateful for those who have taken the time to subscribe, those who have shared, all of my guests who have come and spoken to me, little known me. God will honor you as you have honored me. I pray just for favor and blessings. And as you guys can see, my Christmas tree is already up. So my prayer for everyone who does take the time to watch till the end. If you watch to the end, comment down Christmas tree and tell me if you're ready to put up your Christmas tree. That I pray you have a really wonderful and nice Christmas, and I pray for just a peaceful and loving rest of the year 2025. I pray that 2026 is just filled with so much love for you and your family. To all my mamas out there, I do encourage you that take the rest of this year to rest. One of the things that I love about the Bible is that God shows us how we're supposed to fashion our lives. And every time I question taking a break. Even today, I was questioning, well, should I just try to get one more 2 people? Or, I remember that Jesus rested. I don't want to rest, but I know that I'm not working at the capacity that I can be if I don't take a break. And I do need a break. I need a rest. I have a job. I have 3 children, and I'm doing this. And I'm hoping that this grows. I'm hoping that those of you who have started with me, you would keep on with me. You would keep on sharing, and you will keep on just encouraging each other. So thank you to everyone who watches. And if no one watched, thank you to Jesus. Even if someone watched, thank you to Jesus. Thank you guys for just sticking with me, and I will see you next year, 2026. I pray you all stay safe. Bye.